Charles Darwin had the opinion that that zeal and hard work are more important than intellectual ability. And I must say that personally I do agree with this opinion that he has. So many times in the sports world, in the entertainment world, in music, movies, and even in academia, we find these brilliant people, or in sports, these God-given talented people who, they try to get by on talent alone, and we find that this really doesn't work. I you know I I think that those with hard work and that zeal, I think that you do have to have some sort of God-given ability, but you have to put this God-given ability to use to maximize the potential that God planned for us. Um, so yes, I do agree that zeal and hard work are more important than intellectual ability, but I think it's more on the 65-35 scale as opposed to 75-25 or even 80-20, um, or even 80% and 20%. The moving on, naturalness bias. So naturalness bias can be defined as we have this, it's not outwardly, it's inwardly. We have this prejudice and bias against people who that we see that they're successful, and we think that, oh, that must be all talent. They might not have worked as hard, but in reality they are working just as hard, if not harder, than their peers to be successful in their field. And so I wanted to share an example. I played basketball with and against a C.J. Williams, who was all-state when I was in high school. He ended up going to North Carolina State University for 4 years and playing, and he actually ended up, he worked his tail off. He ended up in Europe and Israel, and now he ended up in the Spurs NBA Development League team, and he was signed by the Clippers organization recently, and he ended up signing a 10-day contract and played in the NBA. And I saw firsthand he wasn't as talented as other guys I have played with, but he worked harder and smarter than anyone that I have ever met, and that really paid off to him achieving his goal of playing in the NBA. And third, I want to someone that I consider they're not naturally talented, but they're still successful. Um, I, I think that Jordan Spieth. So hear me out. I do think that he is naturally talented. He's a lot more naturally talented than a lot of people, than 99.99% of people in the world. But he is not as naturally talented as his peers: Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bubba Watson, Justin Thomas. But through articles that I've read and videos that I've seen, interviews, he works harder than anyone, I believe, than anyone in golf that we've seen since Tiger Woods. He is, probably the most successful, golfer of this new young era, and I think that he owes a lot of it to his work ethic and his tireless zeal that he has for the game of golf.